he got to go, man. Because in that instant right there, like, not only did he do treat me bad, you know what I'm saying? He also treated my teammates with, disrespect. He had crazy words towards them, and they ain't even do nothing. Like, what did they do to you? They just walking on the sidewalk. So I don't know. Well, like he gotta go. I There's not too many times that Jesus say people gotta go, but you how when they say a while or not, gone. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lindy.
All right. Thank you.
So those were the words of Tyreek Hill as he was talking to the media in Miami after his incidents, you could say, with the police down in front of his home stadium to start the NFL season. We're here to kind of break down all the craziness that has happened since then. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, here on the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM, Heartland Signal. And this has been an interesting few weeks, you could say the very least, for the Miami Dolphins as an organization in general. And I think what we want to start off is with the words from Tyreek Hill. And we didn't get a chance to really talk about it when it happened to start the NFL season. And now that we've had time to watch all the film, see the response from everybody involved, and now to start hearing from the people involved in the situation itself, I think for me, I just wanted to make this as transparent as I can, at least from a fan's perspective, from somebody who is trying their hardest and believes in the cause for a lot of these social awareness advocates and things that we are trying to do as a society to move forward, right? As neighbors, as people, as a community. And I also have love for law enforcement officers. I have a ton. We've never hit it here. I have a ton of family in law enforcement. And my initial reaction when I saw this personally was it seemed excessive from what was going on when you put all the context together. The problem is in those scenarios, they don't have law enforcement, that is, or people involved in it don't have the grace of having all the information and having the context, right? So let's just move on to what we know. I think everybody involved has their part to play in why this escalated and why this ended up the way it did. And the thing is Tyreek Hill is on some level going to take responsibility and has taken responsibility for not, quote unquote, doing the right thing and doing what he's supposed to when the police came and had their first interaction with him. We all know you're not supposed to raise the window, especially with a tinted vehicle and a police officer can't see what's in the car. That is dangerous. And I think it's disingenuous if you as a person, as an individual, no matter the hatred you might have for law enforcement or the amount of love you might have for law enforcement, we all can agree that the scenario in which you feel like you're in danger or your occupation has a very high probability that you're going to see violent occurrences, somebody is putting something that is deflecting or preventing from you to keep the situation as safe as possible. You can see the anxiety and how that is something that they take very seriously. So yes, that is where Tyreek Hill is in the wrong, was doing that. Beyond that, it is the responsibility for the law enforcement officer, for the entire entity. Their responsibility is not only to protect, not only to be the aggressor, to be the stronger one, is to also de-escalate. In a scenario, especially when they have a man handcuffed already in control of the state, whether arrested or not, just detained, you are now in the custody of the state, to act that way, choking him down to the ground, kicking him, that is not what you are trained for. In those scenarios, you may have to be the aggressor, the one that pushes forward when you are in a high stress situation where there's violence and people are in danger. I will never be dumb enough or believe that we live in a black and white world where that won't occur. But in that case, in that specific moment, it was overreaction. And then to see how they handled Calais and Janu in the car and hearing, right? This is where people don't, when people say two Americas, three Americas, different Americas. in that high stress situation where all this is going down and people are human, even to the credit or for the benefit of the doubt to the police officer, everybody's human. You have Jonnu Smith and Calais Campbell right there sitting and getting told 4 different directions by 5 different people. Think about that. Like in those scenarios, and you're not in control. You're cornered and you're not in control at all. And you're obviously the bigger human beings. So you are coming off as a threat, but the real threat are the people who are not only in charge of the situation, are the ones who are the most, how do you put it, are the ones with the higher emotion at that given moment, and the ones with weapons. Now, mind you, the police department, the law enforcement officer, they may believe everybody in the world has a weapon. That's how they're trained, and that's what they believe. That's how they have to believe. Because people tend to forget there's still people behind the badge, and they want to go home at the end of the night. Whether you believe that's important, whether you believe that's what they sign up for, however many truths you may have or disbeliefs you may have, that is a period. At the end of that, they want to make it home. So, in my opinion, if there's a pie chart, right? Tyreek has his part in it. But this is a great example of de-escalation being a thing, training being a thing. This wasn't some of these scenarios that we see in the city or in the country, in rural areas, in urban areas where something fast happened, in an area where things like that happen and decisions are made and people's lives are lost and changed forever, and people are maimed. This wasn't one of those moments. And I think that's important to always keep in context. That is why a police officer is in desk duty. That is why, even though the Miami-Dade County Police Department is going to back their guy, there isn't that fervor that there normally is. Because everybody saw the video right away from all different angles, and there is no way to change to justify what you saw. The only thing you could say is he did this wrong. Was everything after that necessary? Or at what point is it excessive? Now, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, right? And that's why I try to give the benefit of the doubt for anybody, right? Like, we don't scrutinize paramedics, firefighters, some of these other responders the same way we do police officers, obviously, right? Because of the immediate reaction that it is. But there are still just people behind it. And there is so many sides to a story. But in this case, we saw all the angles to a story. And we've seen the people at fault. We've seen the people admit their faults. So I think bottom line in this scenario for me is, as citizens, we all have to be aware of what everybody else is kind of at. Not everybody's rolling at life at a level 3. Some people, especially people in law enforcement, depending on what's going on and things that they've seen that you have no control over, might be just riding the wave at a 7, 8, 9 when it comes to their anxiety or what they're feeling, their emotions. So to be conscious of all that. And my hope is that we are asking a lot from law enforcement officers to be psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, first aid, and now social workers. I get it. But there has to be some level when there is so much that you do get by making it to the end, by making this a career, by being able to make an entire living off this, and a good one at that, with so many benefits afterwards, to not automatically go for the extreme. Just like you don't want anybody to ever go to the extreme that all cops are bad. All cops want to do is give us tickets. All cops do is speed traps. All the cliches, right? That if you talk to a cop, you get they demean you for, right? They look down on you upon for bringing it up. You're the ignorant one. This sometimes is one of those things where when you speak into the echo chamber, you hear the same thing bouncing back and forth. But when you take a step back, you kind of realize that everybody else feels a certain way about maybe even just this specific scenario. But We got more coming up on the Sports Cubicle, especially from the Miami Dolphins. We want to know your thoughts on what happened with Tyreek Hill. Let us know. We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. Make sure you're subscribing to us over on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. Check out the merch. The book is out, Lucha Dog, over at luchadog.com and at Amazon. Check us out at Lucha Dog. We got a whole lot left here on this edition of the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado.